And I talked to her.
She has two properties that were both hit by Helene. She's got one in Florida and North Carolina. Now she's in Florida, she's cleaning up and it's like. Yeah, I know. And it's a birthday.
We're about to buy my grandmother's house. You might
No idea, man.
Not much on a.
I thought they were working that property, not that property. I thought they were working that property, not that property.
The guy that owns this was trying to get this and all of it.
Everybody ready?
He bought these two parcels.
Okay. Nothing in here.
All right.
Down from 1A to C8.
I have 6 o'clock. We will call this meeting to order. Marshall Johnson coming in just at the right time. We're gonna wait. We're not in order. That way we're not late. All right, we are called to order. This is Tuesday. It is October already. For those keeping score at home, October 8th, 6 p.m. Anybody that can, please rise. I'll lead us in a quick prayer. I will ask Marshall to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. God, thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you for these members up here that are willing to donate their time to help make this city progress the way it needs to progress. God, we're looking in this Gulf. We just see storm after storm hitting our friends over in Florida. God, if you could just slow that down, just let it dissipate, just kind of let it be a little bit of a rainstorm for them to deal with over there, God. We sure would appreciate that. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you for that. We are called to order. All members are currently present with the exception of Joey. First item of business. Actually, I kind of have a question and want y'all's opinion on this, but we do have a lot of UDC items on the agenda today. I know Carter had something, let's say, personal come up where she was not able to be here. Carolyn, I assume you have not really been involved in this process?
I am not.
So I will ask the board, would y'all rather work through it today without Carter being here to speak to anything, or would y'all rather defer these two items to next month's agenda?
I make a motion that we defer it to next month's agenda.
Second that.
I have a motion by Matthew, second by Nick. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Now I know some of y'all, most of y'all, half of y'all are probably here for that. You are still going to have an opportunity. If there's something you want to get said tonight, we'll have the general public comment under item 5 if you want to get it out tonight. No action will be taken tonight. But I would just, and I've said this before, but man, letters are way better. We get them in advance. We can read them. We can actually be prepared. We're not trying to react. So if you're here about the UDC, you're welcome to speak on item 5 later. However, if you can get letters in before the next meeting agenda, I think that would be a lot bigger help to us to be able to understand what's going on.
Hey, Andy, just for the minutes, who seconded the motion?
Nick.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Let's make a motion to accept the amended agenda.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the amended agenda with item 3A and 4F out?
Second?
I have a motion by Matthew, a second by Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. All right, so we're striking 3A and 4F from the official agenda.
And just before we go into the items, just on that same topic, maybe this can go after approval of the minutes from last meeting, but after those are approved, I'll need a motion to rescind the motion from the September 10th meeting on the recommendation for approval of item 4D, which involved the UDC amendments. So,
And that's on the basis of the advertisement?
on the basis of the noticing and re-advertising.
All right,
I
so,
think let's approve the minutes first, and then we'll make that second motion.
okay, all right, so the next item is going to be the approval. This is item 2 on the agenda, item 2, approval of minutes from the September 10th. Does anybody have any changes?
Yeah, on the minutes and everything, we need to update that to show that it's September 10th on there.
Just at the heading. Yeah. All right, so I have I guess that's a motion to accept with that change. Any other changes on the minutes? Does everybody see what Matthew's looking at, just at the top it says October? Okay. Any other changes on the agenda? And is that a motion to accept with that change? All right, motion to accept by Matthew, second by Kevin. Motion to accept with the correct month by Matthew, second by Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And then again, this would be a motion to rescind the September 10th motion to recommend approval of item 4D involving UDC amendments.
Okay. Does everybody understand what we're doing with the advertise? Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion to rescind the,
So moved.
what he said, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Second. Sorry. Motion by Joe, second by Marshall to accept a motion so eloquently formulated by Will. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Will, are you good with that? You got the motion? How you need it? Okay, thank you. All right, so item 3, old business. There is no old business anymore. Item 4 is going to be new business. First item is going to be a lot split, parcel ID 601-286-50000, 1001 Ocean Springs Road, Zayed Realty LLC. Carolyn, are you doing this one?
Well, I mean, basically, I'm just gonna tell you it's in your packet, and I've just kind of looked over Carter's notes, and it does appear that it's M1. It meets all of the regulations for an M1 lot split. The 2 resulting parcels would be compliant. So the recommendation, or it is eligible for approval after your consideration.
Okay. And even though this isn't a public hearing, we do try to give the audience time to speak. I do see the owner. Did you want to say anything in regard to it? And if you don't want to say anything at the end, we'll bring you back up at the beginning, we can bring you back up at the end. I think so. All right, is anybody here wanting to speak about the lot split at 1001 Ocean Springs Road? Anybody, 1001 Ocean Springs Road? Okay. Any commissioners' thoughts, comments, concerns?
I'll move to make a motion that recommend the lot split for parcel ID 601-2865-0. lot to recommend for the split.
Recommend approval. All right, motion by Matthew, second by Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So you understand we recommend, that should be on next week since it's not a public hearing, right, Carolyn?
Yes.
Yeah. And by the way, I forgot a little bit out of turn, but Carolyn, thank you for being willing to jump in. So on somewhat late notice here for us.
No problem.
All right, item 4B, lot split is going to be parcel ID 0510719900, 5701 Peacock Street, Curtis Williams. Carolyn?
Yeah, and this is, as you can see, in the annexed area, so it is being considered under the county's zoning regulations. So according to the R4, which is the current zoning, it does meet, the 2 resulting parcels would be compliant under R4, which is the high-density residential district. So it does meet the county zoning regulations for lot split, and therefore it's eligible for approval after your consideration.
Okay. Did anybody, is the applicant here? All right, did you want to speak, or do you want to? You're welcome to if you want to. No? Okay. Well, if you need to say anything, if anybody else says anything, we'll give you an opportunity at the end. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. We'll make it quick, probably. Does anybody here want to speak about the 5701 Peacock Street lot split? Anybody in the audience, 5701 Peacock? All right, any commissioners have any questions, comments, or concerns?
Make a motion to recommend approval of the lot split at 5701 Peacock Street, parcel ID 05-107-199.000.
All right, motion Kevin to accept, second by Matthew, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Yeah, you're welcome to leave, and just so you understand, the official approval will be next week at the board meeting. Okay, thank you. All right, public hearing, item 4C, residential short-term rental permit, parcel ID 601-191-06-000-808 DeSoto Avenue, David Bowen. Motion to go to public hearing?
So moved.
Motion Kevin, second Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are in a public hearing. Carolyn?
Just, you have everything in your packet. This is residential short-term rentals, my favorite. It appears that everything was inspected and passed, and that it is inspected for up to 6 occupants and 2 vehicles. Everything else looks to be in line and is eligible for short-term rental permits subject to annual renewal.
So Carolyn, on that, I look at the fire department sheet, and even though the application, or the what is this thing called? The packet says 6 is approved, it looks like the fire department recommended 4, is that not correct?
Yeah, it does look like they reduced it. So, I'll confirm that with Carter when she gets back.
Okay.
And if that's the case, then it will go to the board as 4, and we'll get all of the rules, rental rules and everything adjusted accordingly before it goes to the board.
So as a matter of if and when, if we were to vote to accept, should we do it, provide, with some kind of caveat about making sure the correct number of occupants, something?
That it would be consistent with the fire department's regulation, whether it's 6 or 4, then we'll document that.
All right, well, let's keep barreling through here. So anybody else have anything for Carolyn? And, all right, is the applicant in the audience? Did you want to speak? Okay. Anybody else in the audience want to speak about the short-term rental at 808 DeSoto, Unit 12? Either for or against 808 DeSoto short-term rental?
Make a motion that we close public comment.
All right, public hearing. Make a motion, Matthew, close public hearing. Second, Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're out of public hearing. Any other questions, comments from the commissioners?
Done.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the residential short-term permit for, sorry, let me get the address again. I can find it. There we go. 808 DeSoto, property ID 60119106, with the caveat that the occupancy be changed to 4, subject to annual renewal.
All right, motion by Kevin,
Second?
second by Joe, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. Public hearing, residential short-term rental permit, this is item D, excuse me, PID is 614-250-07000, 612 Cleveland Avenue, Jeffrey Reed is the applicant. Do I have a motion for a public hearing? Motion Matthews, second Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're in a public hearing, Ms. Carolyn.
Yeah, this one is also in the density zone, and I am noticing, just looking at the inspection sheet, that, and it was probably a typo, because it said 7, yes, but they approved 2, but 2 isn't in the month. So I just want to clarify that this was approved for 2 occupants and 3 vehicles.
Is this the main house? Or is this,
Accessory dwelling.
that's what I was thinking. Is the applicant here? All right, do you mind addressing us at the microphone and just explaining where these people are staying? Because it wasn't too clear in our application, and anything else you want to say? Name and address at the microphone first for the record, please.
Jeffrey Reed, 612 Cleveland Avenue. It's a guest house in the back that we rent it now.
Okay, because I saw the 7, I said surely 7 people can stay in the big house, but I figured it'd have to be.
We're just
So
talking about
it's
this.
612B Cleveland.
It's just approved for 2.
Right.
Okay, so that probably needs to to go into the motion as it being address B.
I did see, they did make reference to 612B in there somewhere. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but that's.
Yeah, on
Okay.
the
On the
on
fire
the
department
inspection
sheet,
sheet, it
yeah.
does say B, which would imply an accessory structure, which wouldn't have a separate address, but it is
It's
an
gonna be,
accessory structure.
sure. Mr. Reed, anything else you wanted to say? All right, thank you. We'll let you have a chance if you need it again at the end. All right, anybody else in the audience want to speak regarding 612 Cleveland Avenue? Name and address at the microphone, please.
My name is Melissa Marion. I live at 608 Cleveland Avenue, which is just to the east, to the west, I'm sorry. We have a fence and a hedge dividing our property at 612. This building is approximately 8 feet from our property line, but regardless of that, y'all are familiar with Cleveland Avenue. There is a constant stream of people walking and exercising. There's young families and grandparents strolling babies nonstop up and down the street. We have bikers, kids, runners, everything. This is an established neighborhood. I have quite a few neighbors, if they all want to raise their hand. We've lived there a very, very long time. We're proud of our houses, we're proud of our yards, we like the peace and quiet, and we just really want you all, in your capacity, to consider our opinion on whether we need to have cars coming and going. I could go in my driveway and hear the television in their house. So please, just consider the way that the neighborhood feels about this.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Melissa. All right, next.
I'm Colonel Robert Lewis. I live at 415 Ruskin Avenue, which is next to the property. I think we all understand that a small error in the beginning invariably ends up being a big one. And I think the short-term rental property in Ocean Springs is a terrific candidate for this. But not every neighborhood is zoned the same. This one is zoned single-family resident. Well, if you apply one exemption after another, then there is no single-family dwelling. It's all changed. You've exempted yourself right out of business. And we've had problems with that property before. And it was reported to the city before, not the same owner. However, it was the same sort of problem. And the problem with the short-term rental is this: what are the controls? There aren't any. If it's a long-term rental, there's a contract, there's a deposit. So if there's misbehavior, there's consequences. For the short-term rental property, there are none. The only thing that could happen is late at night, somebody could call the police. But there's no contractual controls over that short-term rental property. And if you want to find out how many frat boys you can fit in short-term rental property, from experience, I would say it's upwards of 15. From my own experience. And the previous speaker is entirely correct. The neighborhood is zoned not for short-term rental, but residential, single-family dwelling. And we all kind of know what residential, single-family dwelling is. And it's not a one night rental, short-term piece of property. So, the zoning there is not zoned for that. You would have to make an exception. I'm asking that you not exempt it. I'm saying that when it was originally zoned, it was wisely done. And we bought property with that expectation, not with the expectation that it would be changed into something else. Additionally, it's in the historic district. So it's all of a piece. And I think that this is a good example of a reason why the city should look at the whole business of short-term property. When I moved in, I think it was limited to 10 in Ocean Springs, and I think you've let that run amok. And as was said, it'll be parked next door. To me, 40 feet away. From the previous figure, she's closer.
It's coming up on a 3 minute.
So I think it's a short-term problem, and I think it needs careful solution. I'm asking that you begin tonight. Leave it as it's originally structured. Leave the covenants as they stand. Don't start making exceptions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Colonel. Next. Go ahead. Name and address at the microphone, please.
Pam Cheney, I'm at 604 Cleveland. Y'all have access to facts that I don't have. I only have what I've been told from communication with people who live in our neighborhood. The structure that's being discussed, as I understand it, was built without a permit. Maybe it was before permits were required. I'm not really sure. I don't know. But that's what I've been told. And if that is true, should that have an impact on your decision? And that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cheney. All right, anybody else in the audience want to speak about 612 Cleveland Avenue? Name and address at the microphone, too. And one thing, it's usually on our agenda. Everybody's been good tonight, but we do ask y'all to limit it to 5 minutes speaking, but I thought it was still on there, but it's not, so I just wanted to get that out. But I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Cindy Peters, 800 Cleveland Avenue. Seen you before. I just wanted to reiterate some of the things that have been said. This is such a well-established neighborhood. I was born a couple of houses down where we now live behind that house. And our relatives live there. 5 of the relatives are right on that end there. So it is a very well-established neighborhood. I really feel like there are a lot of, can I ask a question?
Sure.
How many Airbnbs are allowed in Ocean Springs? Is there a limit? Because I can name 3 right within walking distance.
It's a total of 115. You've got 2 different zones, and that's for residentially zoned. There's 65 in the, I'll call it city proper, and I'm sorry. Yeah. That's not right. This isn't right in here. But anyway, it's a total of 115.
Yeah, total of 115 in residential zones, and what Carolyn's saying is there's a little bit of a greater concentration towards the west, towards the downtown area, and less allowed kind of in the east in the more residential commercial area. All right.
So we have a good many in our area, part of town. I can name 3, I know one that's coming up soon, that you will see me bang. So, but seriously, this does affect the feeling of the neighborhood, the safety of the neighborhood. And quite honestly, I've gone around town recently, and I was noticing so many downtown Dewey, Russell, a lot of those streets were, I was saying, oh, they really, added a lot, these old houses are fixed up. And they said, they're not old houses that are fixed up for us, they're old houses that are fixed up for Airbnbs. And the guy, I met a guy, he said, this house on the side of me is vacant most of the time because it's an Airbnb. This house is vacant most of the time. I used to have neighbors there, but now they're just vacant houses. I got a little bit off course, but what I wanted to say was, please consider the neighborhood, please consider our plea. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cindy. Yep, name and address, please.
So I'm Jenny Milstead Kahn, 515 Jackson Avenue, and I just came to listen. And I'm not able to do that. I'm having to get up here because I need to tell y'all my experience. I have pictures, so I woke up, I live by myself on almost an acre, and no lights around the back, so I wake up on Sunday morning, and there is a guy asleep on my back porch. He's taken my ottoman, he's got his pillows, it's about 8:30 on Sunday morning, and he's asleep. And he's a short-term rental guy that got confused on where he was supposed to be going back to for the short-term rental. So y'all are affecting me by not feeling safe. There's no background checks on these people. They're just randomly walking around. They had enough libations downtown to not even know where he was supposed to be going back. I had to call the police. It took them 15 minutes to get there. It was like horrible. They didn't press charges, and so I am really asking y'all, from a safety perspective, to rethink this thing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jenny. All right, anybody else in the, sorry, go ahead.
Steve Tillis, 3211 Cumberland Road. I didn't even come here to speak, but as I watch what's happening with these short-term rentals, I think that it's changing the charm of the city.
Amen.
You've got these investors that are coming in, buying up these properties. You're driving out the long term, people that have lived here their whole lives. And, it's just kind of a grab for these commercial developers. So the more we give them, it is changing the city. If you can't see it, as I just listen to all these people talk, you can see it. It's changing the city. Please look at what's happening. These short-term rentals are bringing in these heavy investors. They're buying the property. They're driving up the value. And then people are moving out for these commercial developers. So those are my thoughts.
All right, thank you, Steve. All right, anybody else? Anybody else? We're on 612 Cleveland Avenue. Motion to close public hearing? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Reed, did you want us to have the last word? I forgot about you back there, but yeah. Do the name and address one more time just for the record, please.
Jeffrey Shine, Reed, 1020, I'm sorry, that's my birthday. 612 Cleveland Avenue. So I've been moving since I was 1 year old. I'm an active duty military member. I'm going to retire in 3 years. I think this is a beautiful town. I'd like to stay here. I'd like to be able to afford to stay here. There's so much charm here, and I'd like to be part of contributing to that. And honestly, I probably can't afford this house without the rental. And moving forward, we need to bring people in that care about the town and want to maintain it properly. And I can make the payments on the mortgage just barely, but I'd like to be able to maintain the property the way it needs to be maintained. And we need to be having people come into the town that care about it and want to maintain it the way it needs to be maintained. None of these people have really come over and introduced themselves, with the exception of my one neighbor that's right across from the fence. So other than them, I don't know anyone else. And the only reason he introduced himself was because he wanted to cut one of my hedges or something. I mean, that was nice for him to ask for permission, I'm not, and I do appreciate that I got to meet him. But yes, I would like to find a home that I can be accepted in, and I'd like to be able to contribute to this neighborhood when I retire here.
All right.
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. All right, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion Matthew, second Kevin, all in favor?
All right, before you make a motion, I have a couple questions.
Yeah, I was gonna call for some questions and comments. Go ahead, Marshall.
Please explain to the audience what is required to get a short-term rental permit, how long it's in effect, and who inspects before you get the approval.
Well, it is subject to annual renewal, so every year it's inspected. It's inspected for code and various things. We also, every year, there's, as part of the renewal process, we check with the code enforcement department and the police department to make sure there was no complaints or violations in the past 12 months. Those would be either addressed or could be used as a cause of revocation. Any complaints received intermediate to that time would also be followed up in the same manner. So
Who inspects the property before it's
both the
approved?
fire marshal and the code enforcement, yes.
Okay. So if I want to rent my house long-term, who do I get a permit from?
Nobody.
Who inspects my house? Okay. The whole reason that we went into, the city of Ocean Springs went into the short-term rental permit is that we realized that we had no control over who could come in and rent a house short-term.
Listen, that's not right.
Sir, this is not, we are out of public hearing.
You need to.
Colonel, I need you to sit down, please, sir.
Because.
Sir, this is not your time to speak, sir. Sir, this is not your time, thank you.
Okay, there may be a contract, there may not be a contract, but nobody inspects it and nobody enforces it. The point is that the city realized that there was absolutely no control over rentals in the city. And we realized that a lot of people were doing these short-term rentals. So we figured the best way to bring that under control and protect the neighborhoods in the cities was to come up with a short-term rental regulation, which have been explained. It's only good for 1 year if there are no violations. It can be withdrawn at any point in time. And to get it, the house is inspected by the fire marshal and the code people to make sure that the house is up to code. So it's really a way to protect the city from what was happening before where there was no control over it. So just so you have that in the back of your minds. That's all I have to say.
How about
Okay,
protecting
thank
the
you.
residents?
All right, does any other commissioners have any questions, any comments, concerns?
I was just going through the UDC, and where is the map of the density zone? Where does that reside?
It's on the website. I know it's been
Okay.
put on the website.
But we never incorporated it into the UDC?
No,
Yeah, well, it was
separate.
adopted as
It's a
part of the
separate
ordinance.
document.
I don't know if it's in the document yet. Like I said, I haven't been up there.
Goes
but
from
it-
Pine Drive to.
Yeah. It was passed with the ordinance last June,
Right.
and so it is codified. It is in the ordinance. If it's not in the document, that's, I don't know, but it is
UDC
described
or-
in the.
I can't ever remember, because it was a standalone ordinance.
It's a standalone ordinance, it needs to be incorporated in the document, but it is codified under ordinance, it's on Muni Code, but it is represented on our map. That's all I can speak to, but it is available to the
Right.
public on the map.
And the density zone has a limit, right?
The density zone, think of it as dual controls, like the density zone is to concentrate, and if I remember correctly, it's been a minute, but I think there was 50 in the density zone, which is primarily in the downtown area and surrounding areas.
Let's just
And
say
then-
west of Pine. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a
and then
pretty.
the rest of the city had 65, so
Citywide was
per
65.
capita, it's much more, that's why I call it a density zone. And that was to regulate, to make sure that the growth didn't happen outside in the more residential areas. But that was passed last June, it is available, and that's where it's set, the 115 for residential properties.
Any other commissioners have any questions or comments on 612?
Yeah, the only thing that I do see is under house rules that something that needs to be added in is that the property manager or needs to be listed on there with a contact So there is no information on that, so that needs to be added in.
Included in the house rules.
Yes.
We'll make sure that change happens.
And I would like to say, thinking back on the original conversation, when we were just short-term rental permits, and we were always hitting the cap, and then we raised the cap, and we hit the cap, and we raised the cap, and then we came up with these density zones. I'll admit, I probably didn't look at that density map as close as I probably should have. It feels to me like it might be a little too broad. Is there some way we can review that in the next couple months?
This is not, guys, this is not a reason to apply. I was gonna say, there's a commissioners forum at the end. We are talking about 612. We're not talking about density zones. Let's do that at the end in commissioner forum. But if you wanna bring it up, by all means, Kevin, I encourage you to do so. But we
The
are.
only thing I will bring up outside of not talking about is powers that be wanted to make the cap a lot larger, and we stood our ground on at 115. To be able to give control to the city, it was going to be widespread. We are at that cap. That number is out there, that cap is being reached. If we didn't have a cap, the list would keep on going. We're trying, as a commission, to give transparency to the residents of our town. If the residents in that area feel so hard about not wanting something in that area, they need to come before the board with all the information and put it out there saying, we do not want this.
Get back to 612.
Board of Aldermen.
Board of Aldermen.
We're going to discuss this more in the Commissioners Forum because we
Yes.
have a guy that has put together an application for 612 Cleveland Avenue.
So I do have a question for the owner.
Sure.
So you're on property, correct? And then you would be, so if somebody were to rent, say me and my wife rented this, we would be in your backyard, correct?
Yes, sir, and obviously that's a concern to me as well. I don't want any crazy people renting my short-term rental.
Right. And I get what the concerns are about the short-term rental, but speaking on this particular property, are you out of town a ton or anything like that with?
No,
Okay, so you're pretty much there and you have the same concerns that your neighbors would have for anybody renting?
Exactly.
Okay.
I have 30 days of leave per year.
Okay.
That's about as much as I can go unless I'm sent for training or something like
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other commissioners have any questions or comments or concerns? Do we have and if not, anybody else? I didn't hear anything. All right. Do I have a motion on 612 Cleveland Avenue?
I move that the short-term rental request for 612 Cleveland Avenue, PID 614250007 be approved, subject to annual renewal.
All right, I have a motion.
Something needs to be put in that, and I think Will would agree to this.
Hang on.
Property manager.
Property manager.
Property manager needs to be added in there, and also it needs to reference, this is the accessory dwelling, this is not the primary residence.
All right, so Marshall, Matthew, so you have a motion to accept as presented. He wants the property owner's contact and
Yeah, I'll
the
accept that into the motion.
property owner contact and the
It'd be in the accessory dwelling.
accessory dwelling unit in the back. Okay, so you're good with that?
Yep.
So Marshall has amended his motion to reflect Matthew's suggestions. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Kevin has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, that motion carries. So that will skip, where did my, and I didn't say it to the other guy either, but that will skip next month's because it'll be re-advertised. I'm not,
Yeah,
not
it
next
just
month's,
skips
next
one.
week's
Yeah.
board meeting, and it will be heard on the first board meeting in November. Okay? All right, and that'll be final approval. We're just recommending. All right, next item, item 4D, public hearing, 4E, public hearing, rezone parcel number 601-280-42000, northwest side of Government Street and Paps Road. WJ Properties are requesting R1A district to CH Regional Commercial District. Donovan Scruggs representing. Do I have a motion to go to public?
So moved.
Motion Matthews, second. Second Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. We're in a public hearing. Mr. Carolyn?
Yep, just what you have in front of you, zoning change from R1A to CH, so, yeah. And so all the information is there, and I'm sure Donovan's got a wonderful presentation that he'll tell you why it needs to happen. But based on the review done by the community development director, it is eligible for rezone. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
All right, anybody have anything for Carolyn before we call the applicant out?
This got to be accepted?
Yeah, this is for Mr.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. So,
Yeah, this is submitted.
so what Joe's referring to, we got a copy of the PowerPoint that would have been PowerPointed, but we didn't have the technology on us today. So, do I have a motion to accept the printout in the minutes?
Motion to accept?
Motion Joe, second Marshall, all in favor? Aye. All opposed. All right, so these are.
And yeah, I'll just add, as we always do on the rezone, we know this is a rezone. It's either a change of character in the neighborhood and public need or a mistaken zoning. So let's just keep the discussion of that in terms of approval or not.
10-4.
Make one of those findings.
All right, anybody else have anything before we go to the applicant? All right, Mr. Scruggs, let's do our best to keep it under 5 minutes.
I'll do my best. Is your slides 1 or 2 pages per page?
One per page.
Good deal then. My name's Donovan Scruggs, I'm 7 Pine Drive here in Springs, and I am representing Deputy Properties, Ocean Springs LLC, which is James Vereen, who owns A&A Automotive, which is located across the street from this particular site. I think we're all familiar with this property. It's the one that's basically in the curve between Paps Road and Spanish Trail or Government Street, and just to the east of Ocean Springs Road. The property has been zoned R1A for a very, very long time, and it has not developed. To be honest with you, I think the R1A is a district that's very hard to develop in, and I believe you won't find any R1A properties that have been developed probably since about 2006. So there's not a lot of them, and they're not easy to develop. And I think that may have been one of the things that has hampered this particular project. For this property, the first page, which I guess is number 2, kind of shows you what we're looking at. The property is nestled in between CH property to the north, some industrial property to the northeast, CH to the immediate west, and then some also highway commercial to the south. So there's 3 sides of this property, it's all on CH. So what we're asking basically to do is extend this CH zoning to include this property. The property is not the large property that's to the west, east of this. To the east of this is a 20-acre tract owned by somebody else that will serve as a buffer between this property and the Gulf Islands National Seashore. So there's really a good bit of separation between this and any residential properties that are around it. On slide 3, on page 3, shows you the properties that are owned by Mr. Green or WJ Properties. He owns a property that's the triangle piece that's actually in that curve and south of Paps Road. So he is trying to basically get this existing property, the subject property, to be consistent with that property. Basically have one big CH zoning instead of property that splits off. The CH property that's in place is probably pretty difficult to develop because of the irregular shape of it. It's hard to develop in a triangle sometimes. So he, I think this is a good fit, and I would like you guys to agree with me. Now, to really make this property more difficult to develop, the city's had a moratorium in place for about 2.5 years, which says you cannot do any multifamily. So you take an R1A zoning that is basically a special apartment district, meaning you're supposed to be able to do multifamily, and you put a moratorium on it for 2.5 years, so you can't really do anything else except single-family residential, which has to be 13,500 square foot lot sizes, which means basically you made this particular property with the most restrictive zoning properties in the entire city, the R1A, be the R1. So it really handcuffs him as to what he can do with his property because the moratorium's in place. And if I recall from the lengthy UDC recommendations that were given you tonight, there is no mention of anything to try to correct this problem with the multifamily. So it's been in place for 2.5 years, and there is no real effort to address this. I think you want to do it when the comp plan comes out, but nobody has seen the comp plan. The slide 4 shows you the property that are across the street, A&A Automotive that I referred to you, which is CH type use, and also Brooms 2, another CH use. Slide 5 shows you property that's located to the north. This includes the Rouse Supermarket, that big property. You really don't get any more highway commercial than that. Then across on Ocean Springs Road to the west, you have the Zion property. I believe he is splitting that property, which is a good thing, which also means the intensity that is there right now will probably get a little more intense if that properly actually develops. And I would assume him doing a lot split is so that something can actually develop there. Pilger built a gym to the north of this site, very, very big thing. And then also you've got K's and Woody's and other developments that have occurred. Slide 6 shows you the way this place has actually developed since 1992. When you look at it, you'll see that basically there wasn't but a bunch of trees out there. Since that time, you've had a lot more residential to the south, but you've also had a lot more commercial along Government Street and to the north. I kind of traced this road showing you all the change in neighborhood character that has occurred since 1992. And when you look at finally at 2023, you'll see that map is a whole lot different from 1992 because there has been a lot of change in the area. The page 8.
We're kind of running out of time. I'd really like you to hit public need. We've seen your change of character. But
yeah, let's talk about public need. Okay, first of all, your comp plan does a great job at showing some of the needs that we have here at Ocean Springs. One is that a sustainable local economy that provides employment opportunities. Employment opportunities are going to be in commercial areas and not on single-family residential zones. Policy 5.2, which is on page 11, says pursue a higher ratio of employment to housing, which means we're a bedroom community and we have a lot of bedrooms and houses. If you do R1A, what you're basically doing is that we're going to intensify that and build more apartments and more houses. This is an opportunity to actually build something that will provide some sales tax and some revenues to the city. The policy 3, page 12 says maximize sales tax revenues as a major funding source, captured from commercial activities and primarily retail and restaurants. So once again, your comp plan is showing you all these reasons to actually consider something besides residential on that site. And I do think that the city has had a very strong policy because it's adopted a moratorium that's been in place for more than 2.5 years, saying that we don't want multifamily, or multifamily is not being encouraged, or we're having a higher concentration of multifamily.
One more minute, Donovan, and I know
I'm doing the best I can.
I know. One more minute, and I'm gonna have to sit you down. Public need.
But the public need is to more or less be consistent with the city's concern over the overcrowding associated with the moratorium. This is identified on page 15, which I think says that there is due to the potential oversaturation of apartments and other multifamily dwelling units. That's in the moratorium. So I believe that by picking a zoning district that does not encourage multifamily because it's something that is different, it is a pretty good fit. So that's it in a nutshell. I know I probably went more than 5 minutes. I prefer to retain the, do that again.
We'll give you the last word if you need it.
All right, great.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. All right, so we are here discussing now the rezoning. This is kind of the corner, the triangle corner of PAPS and government. Anybody else in the audience want to speak to this project or this rezone request? Go ahead, name and address at the microphone, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jason Ruiz, and I live at 110 Heron Park Place. We're just down the road from this area that they would like to rezone. There are several people in our neighborhood that are concerned, and I have friends in Magnolia Bayou, which is kind of, just before our neighborhood as well, that have concerns about, we don't really know what the purpose of this is. And on that, I would like to make a point that several of us have looked at this application that's online, and there are things referenced in this PowerPoint slideshow that you have copies of, and page numbers that you have copies of, that we haven't had the opportunity to see. Some of the stuff he was saying just now, Mr. Scruggs, with all due respect, is actually inconsistent with some of the things in the application that we had the opportunity to review. For example, he made a few comments about public need, which, as the city attorney just pointed out, is an important factor. Well, the application itself, it says verbatim that there is no public need, essentially. They said that there's no public need that the applicant can put forward. It says specifically on page 4, the applicant has not provided adequate information to demonstrate a public need. So that's none. Right, so that's one thing that's strict. Change in character. The whole presentation says this is a major change in character. Well, that actually kind of goes against what changing character means, because it's inconsistent with the present character. There's another element in the application that talks about conservation. Well, that's concerning, because that's part of the present character, and the applicant just says, well, conservation here is not consistent with development. Well, that's not really a reason to change it. So it would definitely be a major change in character if they're given what they want here. The third factor, as Mr. City Attorney pointed out, was a mistake in zoning. The application says there is no mistake in zoning. He essentially says we want to change it because we want to change it, and we feel it will be more marketable and we can do commercial stuff with it. Well, that's great. I'm not necessarily against that, but it's hard to know where this goes. We change it to this wide open zoning where you have a cap on, say, a 35-foot building to go into like having a 60 or 70 or whatever foot building. It's like twice as much. You change the zoning, you change the character. We don't know what's coming next. And that's one of the questions that's supposed to be considered in the application as well. Is that what is the adverse impact on the surrounding areas? Well, all they're going to tell us is, well, there's no plans for construction right now. Okay, well, let's postpone this till you have a plan for construction. Let's postpone this until you can tell us or disclose to us, the public, what the intended use is, because it's hard for us to really weigh in on it without knowing what the intended use is on the front end, before we give them this license to move it to a zoning regulation or zoning code that's going to be wide open. So we're going from a very restrictive zoning regulation to one that is not that restrictive compared to the other. So I think in the end, I think the decision should be either, if it has to be made, I would say it should be denied until they can disclose these things that they've said there's non-disclosure of right now, or until, and if we can't postpone it, then it should be denied until they can actually provide that information for the public. And I would have loved to have had in advance these things that are being said as a public need, because if you go word for word through their application, they say there is no demonstrated public need for it, other than to make it more marketable and perhaps to sell it or do what we don't know what with. So, those are my comments. I really appreciate your time and giving us the opportunity to be heard on this.
All right, thank you. Anybody else about, I'm sorry, I lost the parcel ID, but it's Paps Road, and go ahead, name and address at the microphone, please.
I'm Ken Burley. I live at 120 Heron Park Place. I'm also the president of the Homeowners Association for that neighborhood. I think Jason pretty much spelled out everybody's feelings as far as this goes, and I agree with everything he said. It is true that the property north of Pass Road, north of the railroad tracks, which keeps things pretty segregated as far as the commercial use in that area, is pretty heavy as far as the businesses are concerned. But south of those railroad tracks and in that area, that is heavy residential, families and such as that. I agree with Jason. I think until they can demonstrate what the use is going to be, the question is the intensity of the zoning that they're asking for. Do we really want to give them carte blanche as far as that zoning is concerned and not know what we're going to wind up with? Again, it is the same thing that some of these residents said. That's a heavily trafficked area on Paps Road where we have people that jog, ride bikes, golf carts, such as that, and very concerned about what traffic might come along as far as that Paps Road is concerned. Check with the police department. There's people running off that road all the time. I've witnessed 2 accidents because there's no shoulder on that road and whatnot. So, the heavier the traffic that's going down that road could, potentially be dangerous as well. So, I agree with Jason, and also the majority of the people that live in the neighborhood that sent me here to represent them to say the same thing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mervin. Anybody else in the audience want to speak regarding the Paps at Government Street rezone?
Yes, sir. I'm James Green. I'm WJ Properties also, and I own A&M Wood Repair, which is just south of the property in question. I bought that property.
All right, James, need your address too for the record, please.
6305 Old Magnolia Drive.
Perfect, thank
you. So I bought the property because my business, I'm a long-term resident of Ocean Springs, so I've been in Ocean Springs all my life. I've been in business for 37 years. Naturally, I have the WJ Properties for my properties that I invest in. I'm not a person coming in from out of town wanting to build more property, expand things. My business is very good. I stay busy, and I was looking towards in the future. I'm landlocked where I am. If I buying that property gave me other options as far as to where I could either have more parking or even build another building over there if need be. But with the property not being zoned all commercial, then I needed to have that change before I move forward. I don't have any plans set in stone as far as what I'm going to do with the property. But if I'm going to do something with the property, it would have to be changed. I had this problem when I bought the property where I'm at exactly now. I had the same issue where I had to go through the planning commission, get the property rezoned and all before I built, and I had major headaches, even though I was a long-term person in Ocean Springs, and it took me, it set me behind months. And at my age right now, I'm not looking at going backwards. I'm trying to move forward. Ocean Springs is growing. The property is nobody's done anything with the property. I had to get homeless people off of the property. I've cleaned it up to where it's not just a wooded lot to where you can't see what's going on. Everything the property faces is commercial. There's 2 houses that are on Government Street that face that property. Those 2 houses face commercial property. That's zoned already CH1. What I'm asking for is to zone the other portion CH1 also. And, when I plan to do something in the future with it, I don't have to come before the board and do all this. It's already done. I had the issue before. I'd rather get it done now, and then I can move forward when I decide to do what I'm going to do with the property.
All right, thank you, Mr. Green. Anybody else want to speak regarding the PAPS and government rezone?
Motion to close public hearing?
Hold on 1 second. Are you wanting to speak or no?
Yeah, I got it. Firstly.
Name and address at the microphone, please.
Mark Garrett, 605 Ward Avenue, right down the road from me. So my question is the parking, I mean, pulling, like, would people be pulling out on the government or on the PAPS?
There is no site plan as of yet, so I can't answer that question.
Okay, well, that's an important thing, because I just had to pull out from A&A and from Rooms, just this last week. Both of them, wrong time of day, and you're taking your life in your own hands. It's already bad enough. The way they spoke about it, 100% true. When you cross the railroad tracks, that's a whole nother thing. But government, south, our tiny little roads, and what we can handle right now. So I don't know why we're constantly trying to get rid of the R and A1, whatever, single houses. I mean, you're looking at when you got 5 houses with 10 people driving compared to 5 businesses with hundreds of people driving, it changes the thing altogether. So traffic is already horrible, and there's no place for expansion over there. So I mean, these regulations were set for a reason, and so you probably should have a little more plans of what the intentions are for the property before you make this kind of decision.
All right, thank you. All right, Donovan, we do tend to give the applicant the last word. If you can keep it on topic, change the character, public need, if you believe in mistaken zoning, and keep it under 5, please.
First of all, the report that I provided outlined public need. In fact, everything that I gave you tonight was basically cut and pasted from my report. So I did not provide any new information or anything along this lines. It's all in the report that I provided to the planning commission with the application. I have no idea why the gentleman did not see that, but what he was quoting you was quotes from Carter's report and not from my application. And he referred to the application, not the report. So that was erroneous on his part. The other portion of this is that rezoning is supposed to be based on the actual use of the property and the zoning in place, and not a site plan or some other pretty rendering you have. I follow state law, I follow city policy, I've done it the way it's supposed to be done, and not shows you a picture of something I want to do, then do a bait and switch later on. We're very honest on this process. The deal is, I've got property in the north zone CH, got property in the west zone CH, and property in the south zone CH. I respect the gentleman who says there's a lot of residential out there. There is a lot of residential out there. It's primarily south of the parkway, or I'm sorry, to the Bearing Strait. It's to the east of the Gulf Islands National Seashore. This property is buffered by a church, Gulf Islands National Seashore, and a 20-acre parcel that's adjacent to it. And across the street is probably going to be Brooms Tube and the old Carpentier properties that were are all commercial. So this is not like I'm dropping it in the middle of a neighborhood. I'm dropping it in the middle of an area that's already pretty commercial in nature. As I stated before, the city has chosen to do its moratorium to basically say your property that is owned multifamily cannot be used as multifamily. And I have no idea when this is going to be lifted. So I do think, I'm not providing any new information tonight, other than a picture that shows some additional change in neighborhood character, that looks at the Canes, Starbucks, Taco Bell, the Zayed Boatyard, boat facility, the gym, the business offices there that are across the street from this property, Mr. Green's property that was actually rezoned for his use about 2005. And then Brooms Tube, which is also a commercial use in this area. There's a lot of commercial use in this area, and if you remember just a few months ago, Brooms Tube had a property rezoned from some single family residential and highway commercial to another zoning district, commercial zoning district. So there has been change in this area, and that's what we're supposed to look at. Has there been change? Now, what can be said is since this property was zoned in 1984 at least, as multifamily, has there been any multifamily area development in this area that actually supports the zoning? And I say it has not. There's no multifamily development in this area that would support the R1A zoning. So if you say there's been a change in neighborhood character, it's been more away from multifamily than it has been toward anything else. I think the zoning the requested zoning is correct. I think it's extension of the existing zoning that is already there. I think it is It's not a spot zone, it's consistent, and I think my report has outlined changing neighborhood character and a public need. And I hope you will support our request. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donovan. All right, do I have a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
I got a motion by Kevin to close, second by Marshall. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. All right, we are out of public hearing. Let's hear some questions and comments from the board.
I got a question for Carolyn, since I kind of just started digging on it. This parcel and everything has dual zoning already on it. So the back part of the parcel has 55 feet of CH already. So we're talking about, we have a parcel that is dual zone already.
Interesting, I didn't know that.
So that was the only reason why I brought it up was, and the report looked at it and blew it up, and one looked at it, and yeah, so. I want to hear all the other commissioners before I make any more comment.
All right, what else is everybody else thinking?
Well, I think the 32 years of development surrounding the property, I think justifies a change in character. When we get to public need, I don't think CH is appropriate. It is a transition zone between commercial and residential. I would be in support of a CMX1, maybe even a CMX2, but I don't think I can support a CH.
Based on?
The potential of a 75-foot building. And just so everybody knows, we don't look at what they're gonna put on the property, because somebody else could buy it from them tomorrow, tear it down and build whatever. We're looking at the parcel itself and what it's appropriate for. So it doesn't matter what they're gonna put on it. We wanna know what they can put on it or what they can't put on it.
Well, and just, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I always say the rezoning goes with the property, not the person, not the project. So he's absolutely right. He could get it rezoned and sell it, and it could be something different. That's why we don't. Some places do require it, but Ocean Springs, he is well within his right to not provide a site plan and ask for rezoning.
Yeah, I think CH is too much. I think I could support CMX1, definitely. I would probably support CMX2. I don't think I'm going to support CH. It's too much.
So since I'm pretty new, can I ask, has any R1A been developed in recent years? And what goes on an R1A if it does get developed?
R1A is, it's apartments or single family. And there's very few R1A properties in the city, and there's none in this area that have been developed. We've had some RM, some R2, in a second. I'm trying to get all this out of my head. But there's some stuff up on the highway, but in this area, no, there hasn't been any development.
Or commercial down here? Okay. He's answering my question.
All right, what else do we have? Questions, comments, Nick?
I'm gonna throw something out there that's kind of I'm thinking on is back when this property was zoned and rezoned, I think it was an oversight that it might not have been zoned correct from the get-go.
As in a mistaken change, or a mistake in the original zoning, you're saying?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, what should it have been zoned?
It should have been done as commercial of some fashion, but high-density commercial, I'm not gonna speak on that. But I think looking at all surrounding properties of it, that across the train tracks to the north, you've got industrial property, which is the most that you can do with all of them. And then you got all the property on the south side of government, which is carved in as all commercial also. So you've got this one parcel that has dual zoning on it, which the city has been trying to push away with having dual zoning on properties. I think this might have been just an oversight.
I'll throw in a couple of thoughts. I mean, are you finished? Did you want to?
Yeah, no, I'm
I mean, so just a few thoughts I have. One, it definitely, so I actually thought it was the whole block before, and I was going to be very against that, but I do like that it is just that one little piece. It kind of makes the government street line going up. I will say, I mean, you know, as far as the the residential argument, I mean, there is an existing gas station and an existing automotive shop, which are often considered kind of a very intense, what's the word, business for anything, right? Gas stations, I mean, they noxious fumes, a lot of big trucks coming in and out, automotive, and I don't mean to disparage Mr. Green, he's the only guy I trust to touch any of my vehicles in this town, so, but we're not talking about just the flower boutique shop is the only thing amongst there, so I mean, I think that I'm with Kevin, the change in character, I think it's a slam dunk that it's not a residential property. If it was that whole big block, that does get more over there. I do want to address, I heard, I'm not sure if it was Jason or Kim, but the conservation only comes into play, that's on the future land use map. That was just, I mean, that's a suggestion. You can go through that future land use map and look at what has changed. Carolyn, when was that comprehensive plan written?
The last one, I mean, they're updating it now.
2010. So if you go through and look at this map, you will see there's 101 different things. That future land use map, that's a suggestion, that's in the comp plan, that's not an ordinance. I mean, yes, it's a guiding document, absolutely. But if you read the reason that they say, it's not in here, I went back and read it, but if you read what that says, it says something about wetlands, floodplains, everything. There's no floodplain on there. I pulled the map. There doesn't appear to be any wetlands. It looks like scrub pines to me. So I don't think that I'm going to give much in that. I believe Carter even says in her report she doesn't give much credence to that being an appropriate land use to say it's a conservation area. There's one other thing. Yeah, I'm sorry. The other thing I wanted to make sure we've already said is the intended use is not necessary for rezoning in Ocean Springs, so that's already come out. So those are my main things. As far as public need, Kevin, you brought that up. One thing I do appreciate, Donovan's made the point that about the comp plan saying balancing employment opportunities with residential. And I don't even think you're saying that the public need's not there for commercial at all. You're more concerned about the intensity of the commercial.
That's my only concern is the
But I was going to say, I can support public need just based on that. If Ocean Springs is worried about multifamily developments, as I understood that moratorium, we weren't involved in it, but a lot of that was infrastructure stress and things like that, water sewer uses, which commercial tends to use less than an apartment building, of course. So I do also agree that could, it's kind of a weird backdoor public need. I do think there can be a strong support for commercial use based on change of character and or mistake. I think it's more of a change in character, but I mean, I can see the argument made either way. Those are kind of my comments.
I'd support the argument either way, I just won't support ZH.
Anybody else have any?
I was just gonna say that I understand your concern on the CH versus CMX, one of those, but he's already got a piece of that he could go, I mean, he doesn't have to go forward any board, and he can go ahead and build CH all he wants there, so to keep it consistent, I can support it. And I live in Magnolia Bayou right down the road, so I'd rather see a commercial development than a apartment complex come in there that would increase and generate more traffic that way, so.
Nick, I want to make sure I understand you right, because it's a good point if I did. This is it's a big triangle that's separated with a vertical line, right? So you're referring to the little triangle that is CH. To Matthew's point, I didn't catch it, but he's right. There's about a 50-foot strip of CH.
Right along Fabs.
That would be kind of fun to see what would happen there. But now you make a good point that, I mean, I would assume, and I don't want to speak for him, but I mean, if this was me, I would probably collapse that lot into one. And I mean, at that point, you either ended up with a split zone property, which we really try to avoid, or you have to go back and rezone the other one, or this one. I mean, one of them would want to change. As far as the CMX2 mentioned, Kevin, I did not study it as well as I didn't really think about it, but that tends to go towards like a downtown zone, and I think you're creating some issues for them because there's like setback issues that are strange, that are kind of, that lead towards, front setbacks being really short, like you almost have to have it on there, which I think we've discussed that recently, but the CMX2, I believe, is only located downtown, is that correct? Is there any CMX2s floating around anywhere other than downtown? Am I right in saying?
Just outside of downtown, but that's what it was intended for.
Right, but am I right in saying there are some kind of funny setbacks that aren't traditional, like suburbia development and more downtown?
More for shared use in downtown and shared parking, things like
Yeah, so max building height, 4 stories, front setback, 5 squared, side 5, side street 10.
Yeah, go to footnote 2 on that. Didn't it say something about you have to have it?
Additional zones when family, no, 'cause there's no family around.
Oh, we got deleted this year. I think we did.
Yeah.
I was about to say we may have already got rid of that front setback, but doesn't, isn't
I
that
don't
what that
think-
said?
Oh, yeah, we did fix the front setback last year.
Yeah, I don't think it's overly restrictive.
That- One thing that hasn't been mentioned, but it is in the packet, is there is support from the guy, from the owner of the 20-acre parcel. He supports the change in zoning, and he has a 20 acres of
He
R1A.
has the adjacent property.
He would be the one most affected by this. I mean, other than any kind of generated traffic.
I'll pull it up on my phone. I got it. And Nick, just to reiterate what Nick just said, those are in the packet, those would have been online and available. But there was, I think there were 2 of them, wasn't there, Nick? Yeah. Okay. It's like handing off a bomb. Do you want to see those too, just for reference? That's the RM, so. And that's 2, 5 squared, okay. I mean, if that's what you want them to consider, ask them what they want. They're right there. Let me try to find the map. You want to bring the applicant up and ask them?
Yeah, good morning.
The only thing I want to see is the land use matrix. Make sure we're not cutting them out of some obvious whatever.
I mean, not only, you look at
CH. I don't know what you're pointing at.
no, I'm just saying there's really no other in that area, the CMX 1 or 2.
Well, CMX 1 is, that's what it was changed to, just south of the Brooms 2. That's
That
CMX
was-
1.
Right.
Yeah, that was dual zone where they had.
But it was, yeah, it was multifamily. And just for some context of CH, back when many years ago, when we adopted the UDC and kind of made those modifications, CH was highway commercial, it was C3. And you have to remember, way back when, Government Street all the way down Spanish Trail was the highway. So a lot of that is zoned commercial highway because it was the highway at the time. So considering other CMX1, it has been a discussion for some of those non-Highway 90 properties.
So I think in fairness to the applicant and just knowing what he does, I do not think that he would want CMX2 because as I read it, it would not allow for, where did it go? Definitely not allow for fuel. It says automotive sales or service establishments and it is not permitted or conditionally allowed in a CMX2.
I think CMX1.
Only CH. And I mean the other I don't know that it's a problem, but the CMX2 argument, I mean, I guess there's no harm in it. Honestly, it feels more like a spot zoning to me than a CH, just given that it is surrounded by it, other than that R1A.
Well, I think the transition to the R1A, to the residential is why I would say it's not.
We do have the CMX1, but it's kind of off of the road a little bit there. Certainly not a...
The property just to the west of it is already CH. And the parcel that we're talking about is dual zone. Even though it has a little sliver, it's still got CH already in it.
I do wonder why that sliver exists.
That's the only reason why I said it was.
You got anything, Joe? You've been quiet.
Just soaking it up.
Soaking it up like a sponge. Marshall, anything? Dad?
I'm kind of leaning to CH just because the area is covered with it, but they're still listening.
Yeah, and then that random industrial zone is right across the railroad track. I mean, just catty corner. across the railroad track from it too.
Yeah, but I think that railroad track is a natural boundary between two.
Well, you're getting into the whole what's neighborhood, and I mean, that's, obviously that is a way to approach it.
I'll throw it open for a motion, and if it doesn't pass, then you can.
That's right. If anybody wants to make a motion, I'm all.
I'm gonna swing it. I'll make a motion that we recommend the rezoning of parcel ID 60128042 dot triple lot be rezoned from R1A to CH commercial. The findings is that the character of the area has changed over the years and that it needs to be rezoned.
And I'll add in there, in a public need.
And a public need.
Okay. Second. I have a motion by Matthew for change of character and public need, second by Joe. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Nay. Nay. So that motion will carry, how many of there are? 5 to 1. 5 to 1 with Kevin dissenting. All right.
But that will be re-advertised for
Yeah.
the November fourth.
All right, so Donovan, November, whatever, you know the rules. All right, we are skipping item 4F as per our previous motions, which was going to bring us to the general public comment. Any off-agenda items, which with the UDC amendments off the agenda, they're open for discussion now. I would encourage anybody who wants to UDC, just please send a letter as well, because it'll be a whole lot easier for us. But if you would like to speak about that, anything off agenda, doesn't have to be that, it can be anything, but anybody in the audience wants to speak? Once, twice, or you come to the microphone? Okay, I didn't know if you were walking out like everybody else. Name and address.
I was getting ready to, Julie Lawn, 303 Front Beach. I'm just not quite sure what happened at the beginning.
With all the motions and all,
The
let's stop time.
minutes and then.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Matthew said something, but I couldn't hear what he said.
Yeah, so after, Will, correct me if I misspeak on this. So we made motions the other day. We went through the UDC. You were here, weren't you? Yeah, or you, I don't know, anyway. So we made some motions, found out later it wasn't properly advertised, so we rescinded our motion that we made the other day. So as of right now, the Planning Commission has not recommended any UDC changes within the last 3 months. I'm just making up 3 months. But so that was the rescission. Because Carter had something come up, personal matter, that she wasn't able to be here, Carolyn had to step in. We didn't want to hear the UDC tonight because we didn't have, I'm not saying she came up with them on her own, but Carolyn hasn't had any involvement in the process.
I understand all that. I just wasn't sure.
No, yeah, so the rescission was just everything we changed the other day is not being recommended to the board now.
Okay. And I just like to say, I asked the commissioners to maybe make sure you go through these changes and understand how some of these changes may affect other parts of the UDC. And I also wanted to say that, such as the adding the condominiums to the matrix, does that mean a condominium isn't considered multifamily where it talks about multifamily in other parts of the UDC? So, anyway, so I think before anyone votes for any of these changes, I think we need to know why they're being changed, what's the purpose, why so many at one time. Anyway, just second to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Anybody else in the audience? So I'll actually say, Will, that I don't know who to talk to since Carter's not here. I can email Carter if you'd rather, but I wouldn't mind having a definition of multifamily in there to say what is and isn't multifamily. That comes up. I mean, that's not unique to Ocean Springs. That's everywhere you go. Townhomes, you own the land underneath it. Is that single family? A lot of places
General
say-
definition at the front of the UDC.
Do what?
You're talking about
Just a definition, like when we say multifamily, like Julie just said, our condo, like this includes blank, blank, blank. So let's just make sure we know what it, I mean, is single family only a single family residential, or is it a townhome because you own everything? Condos are tricky. You own part of it, you don't own the land, so.
Yeah, and if any of the commissioners have any thoughts on that, they're free to send those my way, and I can work on some language to the extent any amendments come up to future meetings.
But I think, I mean, not, I just think that'd be a good thing to have, so, all right. All right, Commissioner Forum. Kevin, did you have anything?
I did. And I've thought about it throughout the course of the meeting, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the density zone map. I'll review it myself, and if I have changes I think we should make, I'll bring it up and see if we can get it as an agenda item to just rediscuss it.
Yep. Do you want to do any more? You going to do that, and we'll do it next time then, right?
Yeah, if I have any issues, I'll let everybody know and
Or
recommend it be an
send it
agenda
prior,
item.
any
Yeah.
questions or concerns you have on it.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, Matthew, did you want to add anything? I know you had some thoughts on what they were talking about earlier. You have any Commissioner Forum items? Anybody, I'm sorry. Nick, do you have anything? We'll go down the road. What you got?
I'd like the planning department to come back to us at the next meeting and explain where we're headed with short-term rentals. Because every time I talk about it, I really believe that was the best way to go. But you can't just get to a point where we say we're not going to approve anymore. Then what do you do with the people that are out there, and why can't they just go ahead and rent it as a normal rental? Because the whole reason we went into this is we realized that there was no control over rentals. So I think if you can review that and come back with some thoughts on that, that would be helpful. And I think the board of Aldermen would appreciate it also.
Carolyn's smiling because she just has
I will
to pass a memo.
Yeah, I know.
I can deliver that message.
I will reiterate, I think it'd be good. I think we're probably overdue to just have a refresher and all that.
And you should be at the cap. I haven't looked at the numbers lately, but you should be right there. You shouldn't have that much more coming unless there's.
But it's irrelevant. We get to whatever the ceiling is, what are we gonna do after that? Are we gonna add more, or are we gonna not? And then what's the impact of that?
That's always been at the direction of the board. I think the last time we increased it, the recommendation, at least on my part, was that would be the last increase.
Yeah.
So, but then again, that would be at the board's direction.
Well, I think that if the planning department comes back with recommendations to us, then that recommendation can go ahead to the board and they can figure it out.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, anybody else? Matthew?
I agree with that.
Yep. Anything to add on Commissioner Forum? Motion to adjourn by Marshall, second by Kevin. All in favor? Aye. All opposed. Thank y'all.
I do have one other thing for the planning department.
It wasn't until you started that these things got long.
Hey, the first one was like super short.
Oh, yeah.
Then everybody started showing up.
Changes to a new version in
We
January.
barely made the quorum.
Yeah. Okay. The,